Hello, I'm Beth Joey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you guys know, I've been gone a little while, so I thought at like 6 o'clock this morning, why don't I get together all the books that I've bought in the time that I've been away and haul them all for you so you can see just how ridiculous my spending has got, both on physical copies and on my Kindle. There are going to be quite a few books in this haul in total. I'm going to put the number up on the screen right here so you can see just how many. So let's crack straight in with The True Love Experiment by Christina. I have had a little bit of here and there luck with this author, but I'm hoping that the sequel to The Soulmate Equation is going to be the book that gets me right back on board with this author duo. As for what it's about, it follows Felicity, or Fizzy Chen, who is the bestie from the previous book, who's a best-selling beloved romance novelist whose life seems to be going perfectly except for the fact that she's not practicing what she preaches. She meets Connor Prince, who is a documentary filmmaker and a single father who has been forced by his boss to put together a reality TV show which he calls The True Love Experiment. He brings Felicity Fizzy Chen on board, I assume, sparks fly and the two fall in love. The next haul isn't just one book, it is four, and that is the Chestnut series by Elsie, which is a series of small town cowboy slash ranch romances, each following one of four brothers as they fall in love. So in the first book, Flawless, you've got Rhett, who is a golden boy bull rider who, after a scandal, is forced to move in with his agent's daughter in order to repair his reputation. In the second book, you've got Heartless, which follows Cade, and he is a single father just looking for a nanny, but all the nannies he seems to be interviewing are more interested in him than in his son. So he brings on board Willa, who is a friend of Summer from the previous book, who's a bit footloose and fancy-free, and it's very much a grumpy sunshine romance. Then in the third book, you've got Powerless, which follows Jasper Gervais, who is a big-time ice hockey superstar who seems to hate the limelight, and his childhood best friend Sloane as she's trying to escape from the wedding that she never wanted, and so they kind of go on a road trip together. And then in the most recent book, you've got Reckless, which follows Winter and Theo. Winter is the sister of the girl in the first book, and Theo is again sort of one of the four brothers. And it follows an accidental pregnancy and an on-purpose reuniting. The fifth book, which follows Beau, who is the oldest brother, I believe, has just come out. I don't know much about it, but I have gotten it on Kindle Unlimited, so maybe I'll be reading that one very soon. Next up, we've got another series, I guess, and that is King of Wrath and King of Pride by Anna Huang. I loved the Twisted series by this author, but this is a new series, new world, new characters. As for what the first book is about, it says, ruthless, meticulous, arrogant, Dante Russo thrives on control both personally and professionally. The billionaire CEO never planned to marry until the threat of blackmail forces him into an engagement with a woman he barely knows. And then King of Pride is reserved, controlled, and proper to a fault. Kai Young has neither the time nor inclination for chaos, and Isabella, with her purple hair and inappropriate jokes, is chaos personified. Sounds like fun. Next up, we've got Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I've recently been loving this author's work with The X-Talk and Weather Girl, so this is just the latest book by her. And as for what it's about, it says Chandler Cohen lies for a living. When she accepts her next ghostwriting gig, penning a memoir for cult actor Finnegan Walsh, it should be a dream job. However, Chandler knows him best as something else, her worst ever one-night stand. She's determined to keep things professional, but when she finally admits to Finn that their night together wasn't as mind-blowing as he thought, he's mortified and determined to make amends. So they strike a deal. During the day, they'll work on the book, and at night, she'll school him in the art of satisfaction. As they grow closer, the line between business and pleasure starts to blur. Can Chandler and Finn have both, or will they have to choose? Next up, we've got the beginning of another series, and that is King of Battle and Blood and Queen of Myth and Monsters by Scarlett St. Clair. I have read her Touch of Darkness, Hades and Persephone retelling series, and I think this is another sort of mythology retelling following Isolde Delara and Adrian, and I think it's a bit of a vampire romance, so looking forward to that one. Then we've got The Lighthouse Witches by CJ Cooke. This is a whole mix of genres, but as for what this book is about, it says a deserted lighthouse. Upon the cliffs of a remote Scottish island stands a lighthouse. Strange and terrible events have happened here. It started with a witch hunt. Now, centuries later, islanders are vanishing. A lost family. Liv, Stay, and her children don't believe in witches or curses, but within months of arriving on the island, her daughter Luna is the only one of them left. An impossible child. 20 years later, Luna's missing sister turns up out of the blue. She is exactly the girl Luna remembers. Same face, same smile, same age. Faced with the impossible, it's up to Luna to find out what really happened at the lighthouse all those years ago. And another sort of series continuer. Next up, we've got the sequel to Twin Crowns, which is Cursed Crowns. I only bought this book, but I just wanted to hold this up so you know what I'm referring to. It follows these two women who are twin sisters, except one of them knows about the other one's existence and the other one doesn't. They were separated at birth, one sent to live with the witches who are sort of persecuted across this kingdom, and one trained and groomed in order to become the future ruler. And it sort of takes you through as one of them forces them to swap wives and the learning that each of them goes through as a result of that. I'm really, really excited to get cracked straight into the sequel, but it's been a little while and I think the third book has just been announced, so I really need to get started on this. Then we've got 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. I've heard a lot of amazing things about this book, but what it's about is 7 days to fall in love, 15 years to forget, and 7 days to get it all back again. When Eva Mercy, a single mother and best-selling erotica writer, and the enigmatic award-winning novelist Shane Hall meet at a literary event in New York, sparks fly. What no one knows is that 15 years earlier, teenage Eva and Shane spent 1 week together, madly in love. While they may pretend to be strangers, they can't deny their chemistry. Over the next 7 days, amidst a steamy Brooklyn summer, Eva and Shane reconnect. But Eva is wary of the man who broke her heart and wants Shane out of the city so her life can return to normal. Before he disappears though, she needs a few questions answered. Going down a completely different avenue, we've got Notes on an Execution by Danya Kukafka. Again, I've heard amazing things about this book from the other people that have read it. I believe it follows a serial killer in the hours before he is set to be executed and the lives of the women who survived, the lives of the women who were impacted by his actions and by his crimes. This next book is 2 books, but it's also 1 book, in that it's 2 copies of the same book, and that is Foxglove by Adalyn Grace. This is just the normal edition of it, and this is the beautiful fairy loot edition of it. As for what this book or series is about, it starts with Belladonna by Adalyn Grace, and it follows a woman named Signa who, ever since she was born, she feels like she's been cursed by death. Death has followed her everywhere, and that is because right after her birth, her mother passed away, and then every family that she's gone to foster with since have mysteriously died in some way before she gets moved along to the next family. Coming up on Thorngrove Manor, I think it's called, she decides that this is the last time that she's going to have to move, and she is determined to make this situation last, only to realize when she arrives that the family is more messy than she ever could have imagined. It's made up of a father partying away his grief, a son trying to repair the family's reputation in the light of his father's excesses, the matriarch of the family has passed away mysteriously, and the daughter seems to be presenting symptoms of the same nature as what the matriarch experienced right before she passed. So Signa takes on the help of a young stable boy and reluctantly takes on the help of Death himself in order to solve the mystery. It is dark, spooky, eerie, and perfectly gothic in its atmosphere, and I cannot wait to kick straight into the sequel. In the vein of special editions, I also got the Fairy Loot special editions of House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath. This is the most recent series in Sarah J Maas's sort of metaverse, I guess, in terms of her whole fantasy romance series. It follows Bryce Quinlan, who's brought on to investigate a murder that is very, very similar to the very mysterious passing of her best friend, and through that she learns about the various levels of power and corruption in her own world. There's a beautiful romance between her and Huang Athala, who is the bodyguard brought on to help her and also a slave of the people in power. And if you know the ending of this book, then you know that things are about to get crazy weird with the book coming out in January, House of Flame and Shadow, which is the 3rd book in this series, but also kind of connects to another series that is very well known and well loved. Next up, we've got a book that was gifted to me, and that is The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. I just recently read Hamnet and absolutely loved it, so I'm hoping that I'll feel the same about this book. But as for what it's about, it says, in the winter of 1561, Lucrezia, Duchess of Ferrara, is taken on an unexpected visit to a country villa by her husband, Alfonso. As they sit down to dinner in the icy hall, it occurs to Lucrezia that Alfonso has a sinister purpose in bringing her here. He intends to kill her. Lucrezia is 16 years old and has led a sheltered life, locked away inside Florence's grandest palazzo, guarded by her father's soldiers and her mother's ladies-in-waiting. Here, in this remote villa, however, she is entirely at the mercy of her increasingly erratic husband. What is Lucrezia to do with this sudden knowledge? What chance does she have against Alfonso, the ruler of a province and a trained soldier? How can she ensure her survival? The Marriage Portrait is a vivid evocation of the beauty and brutality of Renaissance Italy and of a young woman whose proximity to power places her in mortal danger. Another gift from my mum was Love Stories by Trent Dalton. I believe this is just a series of love stories written over time, and they're all like short little stories. I'm not sure if they're true or not, or if they're just sort of beautiful little inspirations and personal moments. So Keen to pick this up as, you know, the days go on. I think it's one that you can really read in little bits and pieces. Another gift from mum, because she knew I was getting a little bit homesick, is 100 Aussie Things We Know and Love by Bunny Banyai, illustrated by Anna Blandford. And it is literally 100 Australian things that we know and love. All things that like were either invented by Australians or are so key and unique to Australian culture, people that are famous in Australia, all that sort of thing. I love this book. And if you want to know this on the front cover, that is called Fairy Bread. To continue with the gifts from my mother, because she's gone absolutely hell for leather lately, we've got Yellowface by Rebecca F. Huang. Everybody has been speaking about this book lately because of how amazing it is, but I know very little actually what it's about, so let me read you the blurb. It says, Athena Liu is a literary darling and June Hayward is literally nobody. White lies. When Athena dies in a freak accident, June steals her unpublished manuscript and publishes it as her own under the ambiguous name Juniper Song. Dark humor, but as evidence threatens June's stolen success, she discovers exactly how far she will go to keep what she thinks she deserves. Deadly consequences. What happens next is entirely everyone else's fault. Another gift from mum is Great Uncle Harry, A Tale of War and Empire by Michael Palin. This is because we recently went to Belgium, and we went to Ypres in particular to go and visit the grave sites and many of the battle sites from World War I, because I am particularly interested in World War I and World War II history. But as for what this is about, I've got no idea, so let's read it together. Some years ago, a stash of family records was handed down to Michael Palin, among which was a photograph of an enigmatic young man in army uniform. This, he learnt, was his great uncle Harry, who perished at the Battle of the Somme in 1916, aged just 32. The discovery both shocked him and made him want to know more. The quest that followed involved hundreds of hours of painstaking detective work as Michael set out to trace his great-uncle's journey from the comfort of a middle-class Victorian childhood via spells working on railways and tea plantations in India and on a farm in New Zealand to the slaughtering grounds of Gallipoli and Flanders. He pored over surviving fragments of family correspondence and tantalizingly brief mentions in official documents. He scrutinized Harry's often frustratingly terse war diaries. He sifted through battlefield photographs to see whether his great-uncle appeared in any of them. He walked the route Harry took on that fatal final day of his life amid the mud of northern France. As he did so, he gained a personal insight into what it was like to be a child of the British Empire and to fight for king and country in one of history's most devastating conflicts. And a figure that has previously existed in the shadows was gradually revealed to him. Great Uncle Harry is an utterly compelling account of an ordinary man who led an extraordinary life. A blend of biography, history, travelogue, and personal memoir. This is Michael Palin at his very finest. Next up, as another gift from my mom, we've got Trespassers by Louise Kennedy. I know literally nothing about this, so the blurb says, there is nothing special about the day Kushla meets Michael, a married Protestant from Belfast, in the pub owned by her family. But here, in 1970s Ireland, love is never far from violence, and this encounter will change both of their lives forever. And last gift from my mom, I promise, is a little bit of a random one, and that is called Roots of Happiness, 100 Words for Joy and Hope by Susie Dent. This is literally what it says on the tin. It is 100 words that either are joyous in their very definition, so like happy, or they're joyous in the fact that they sound a little bit strange. So there is a word that is nindificate. I think it's relating to birds. It's when a bird makes nests, they are nindificating, and all sorts of other weird words. Mubble-fubbles is the end of summer. Yeah, 100 words have happiness. And the last gift, though this one isn't from my mum, this is from Ben, is the latest Richard Osman, which is The Last Devil to Die. This is the latest book in the Thursday Murder Club series, which follows a bunch of people in an aged care facility who meet every Thursday to solve cold cases until one day in the very first book, murder is really turning up right on their doorstep, and they decide that the police aren't doing enough, so they decide they're going to solve it themselves, and they proceed to bamboozle and have fun little relationships and so much banter with the police and with each other, and it's amazing, and it all revolves around these 4 incredibly enigmatic characters, and this is just the latest book in that series. We are almost there, I promise. The next book is Love Light Farms by BK Borison. This absolutely exploded on TikTok and like Instagram, I think, a little while back. I think it came out last Christmas, and I am excited to pick it up this Christmas. But as for what it's about, it says a handsome freckled data analyst, a messy optimistic Christmas tree farm owner, a small town with the best hazelnut lattes on the East Coast. In an effort to save the Christmas tree farm she's loved since she was a child, Stella enters a contest with Insta-famous influencer Evelyn St. James. With the added publicity and the huge cash prize, she might just be able to save the farm from its financial woes. There's just one problem. To make the farm seem like a romantic destination for the holidays, she lied on the application and said that she owns Lovelight Farms with her boyfriend. Only there is no boyfriend. Enter best friend Luca Peters. He just came home for some hot chocolate and somehow got a farm and a serious relationship in the process. Will their fake love affair save Lovelight Farms in time for Christmas? I can't wait. We are getting toward the end, I promise. The next book is As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zulfa Katu. I promise I will find out how to pronounce her name when I do read the book. But as for this book, it's one of those ones that I think came out as a Fairy Loot exclusive edition, and then naturally everyone was talking about it and how amazing it was. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to pick that up, but I don't want to pay the Fairy Loot exclusive edition prices, so I'll just get the paperback, and it's very, very shiny. Apologies for that, I can literally see the reflection against my camera. And as for what it's about, it says, I am owed a life that does not end in tragedy. A year ago, before the revolution, Salama watched her brother marry her best friend Layla and wondered when her own love story might begin. Now she works at the hospital, helping those she can, closing the eyes of those she can't. Layla and her unborn baby are all Salama has left, unless you count Korf. But he's a hallucination, a symptom of the horrors she's seen. Every day he urges Salama to leave Syria. Every day she refuses, until she crosses paths with Kenan, the boy with the vivid green eyes, who wants to stay and risk his life for everything their country could be. As this sort of continuation of a series that I loved from the minute I opened the first book, I have got The League of Gentlewomen Witches and The Secret Service of Tea and Treason by India Holton, which are both sequels to The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels, which is all about a society of lady scoundrels who all have magical abilities in, I think, Regency England, and they are pirates, basically. They make their houses fly. And it's all about their sort of internal struggles, their external struggles, the battles that they're fighting with their flying houses, both against external threats and each other. And I think in each of them, they fall in love as well. So it's a fun, fabulous series. It's written in the most ridiculous way and it's amazing. Next up, I've got The Ugly Truth by Elsie North. I don't really know what this is about, but I picked it up from a bookstore in London, and because I thought it looked so fascinating. Like, the front cover of this book is just really intriguing. But as for what it's about, it says, Melanie Lang has disappeared. Her father, Sir Peter Lang, says she is a danger to herself and has been admitted to a private mental health clinic. Her ex-husband Finn and best friend Nell say she has been kidnapped. The media will say whatever gets them the most views, but whose side are you on? Hashtag save Melanie, hashtag help Peter. Really intrigued by this mystery. Next up, we've got Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Malors, which I know went absolutely nuts a little while ago, and I've finally joined the train. As for what this is about, it says, New York is slipping from Cleo's grasp. 24, at a different party every night, and with a student visa that's swiftly running out, she doesn't even have money for cigarettes. But then, a chance encounter on New Year's Eve offers her a way out. Frank, successful and 20 years older, can give her the security she craves and the green card she needs. And in Cleo, he sees a life filled with beauty, art, and freedom. As the two rush headlong into an impulsive marriage, and their friends are drawn into its tumultuous orbit, what began as a chance meeting will change all their lives forever. Next up, we've got Wayward by, it doesn't say, oh, Amelia Hart. There we go. We've got Wayward by Amelia Hart, which I believe follows 3 women at random places in history that are all connected in some mysterious way through magic, through sacrifice, through the injustices committed against them, and I believe it is very witchy and spooky and fun. The 3 timelines are 1619, 1942, and 2019. Next up, I've got 2 books that I bought in IP while I was there with my mum, and we've got Epitaphs of the Great War, The Last 100 Days by Sarah Wynne, and The Wipers Times, the famous First World War trench newspaper, and it doesn't say who it was by because I think it's by a series of people. So this book is basically a compilation of the epitaphs and the stories of the men who passed away in the last 100 days of the war, at least those that they were able to identify. So I'm really interested in putting faces to the names of these people and learning their stories. So definitely going to be a tear-jerking read, but one I'm very, very intrigued about. And then The Wipers Times is essentially a newspaper that the Australians put together while they were in IP. The spelling of IP is Y-P-R-E-S, and naturally Australians being Australians, they are mispronouncing that every time they see it. So they renamed this place Wipers, and then I think they found an old printing press and kind of took it over and decided to create The Wipers Times. So this is a compilation of those newspapers with just jokes, fake advertisements, little stories that they put together while they were on the front lines. And I think it's so beautiful because it tells the story of Aussie humour and mateship during a time which was obviously incredibly traumatic for the men that were involved. And very lastly, and I'm sure these books are all out of order, is the Shatter Me series by Tahara Murphy. These books are all bought at once, obviously on Vinted, because there was a seller that was selling all of them, and I have been looking for them for the longest time and I didn't want to buy them separately, but I'll just hold up the first one, which is Shatter Me by Tahara Murphy, and it says on the back, I have a curse, scratched out, I have a gift. I'm a monster, scratched out, I'm more than human. My touch is lethal, my touch is power, I am their weapon. A fragile teenage girl is held captive, locked in a cell by the re-establishment, a harsh dictatorship in charge of a crumbling world. But Juliet is no ordinary teacher, one touch from her can kill. The re-establishment wants to use her as a weapon, but Juliet has other plans. After a lifetime without freedom, she's finally discovered the strength to fight back and to find a future with the one person she thought she'd lost forever. I have actually read this first book, but I'm fascinated by the rest of the series after reading this first book, this YA dystopian romance sort of novel, because of the way the first book was written, in that she like crosses out sections of the text as she reads, so it's written almost very stream of consciousness in some ways, and you can really see the devolving mental state after she's been forced into solitude for such a long period of time. You know, there are sections where she'll repeat the words like, I'm not crazy, I'm not crazy, I'm not crazy, over and over and over again. There's like another one there where she's like, Adam is pointing a gun at my chest, Adam is pointing a gun at my chest, Adam is pointing a gun at my chest. It really sounds like it's going to be a fascinating series, and I'm really, really excited to crack into the whole thing. Maybe I'll do a reading vlog where I read all of them, because I think I will be able to get through them quite quickly. So those are all the physical books that I have hauled in the time that I have been away, and a little bit before that as well. Basically all the physical books I've hauled since the last time I did a haul. I have not included in this video all the Kindle books that I've hauled because I've been going hell for leather on those Kindle 99p deals. I think I will do that in a separate video because there's a lot there as well that I do want to talk about, and a lot of books there that I'm really excited about. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books, which ones you think that I should be reading first, or if there are any books on this list that you are particularly excited by. Or just let me know what you're reading at the moment, loving it, hating it, all that kind of thing. Come and chat to me in the comments down below. I love talking to you guys and I do my best to reply to every single comment. I really, really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do let me know by liking, subscribing and hitting that notification bell all down below. It's a super, super easy way to help my channel grow, and I will see you lovely people in my next video. Bye!